I'm going to start with the phrase, you didn't write the headline, but you get to write what comes next.
Yes.
Powerful, Christina. So I say most of us are walking around carrying a story that we didn't choose.
Yes.
But your work is really helping us to learn that we can rewrite it. And we audiences will go deep dive on that shortly here. So I'm so excited
Yeah.
to welcome Christina Hefner. She's a creator of the headline method. We're going to walk through that. A powerful
Yes.
four-step framework that helps professionals and leaders find the story. They didn't even know they had it.
Yeah.
And not just that, once you find the story, you also learn how to tell it. Oh my goodness, that's what I think everybody needs to learn.
Yeah.
And with clarity and impact, guys. A former TV journalist turned keynote speaker and narrative coach, Christina helps high performers stop shrinking and rewrite the invisible headlines that quietly cost them their opportunities, their confidence, and their seat at the table, which many of us go through, believe me. And she's based right here in Michigan, in Detroit
Yes.
metro area. Christina, welcome to Key to You.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so fun.
Thank you. So let's start with it. What first made you realize you were living under a headline that wasn't yours?
Yeah. So I spent my career in TV news, government, and nonprofit communications. So I had seen this happen again and again, is that leaders were running under these headlines that wasn't true to them. And they weren't speaking up or they weren't communicating correctly. And it was costing a lot of people seats at tables because they weren't communicating authentically from
Mm,
themselves.
yeah.
And it happened to me in my own life at a young age. When I was 19, I had a diagnosis that I
Yeah.
started to live under. And
Yeah.
when I realized that I wasn't my diagnosis and I could take control of my life is when I really started to expand and do things my own way. And it led me to a career in TV, in government and nonprofit, and now building my own business. And so it's something that I have dealt with a lot in my life. And
Right.
I know a lot of people need it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. A lot of many people need it. So let's start with that. Let's start talking about your headline, right? I mean, I do want to give a brief intro into that, but I'd like to hear from you.
Yeah.
Walk through the four steps with the real examples if you can. This is the, guys, this is the value packed information, I would say.
Yeah.
You have a meaning for each one. Head, H, headline, E, evidence, A, assignment, and D, draft.
Yeah.
Let's deep dive on that.
Yeah. So we start with the headline. So I actually built this from my journalism career because there is no story without a headline. And when you see a
Yeah.
headline, think about
Yeah.
if you're on social media, you see a headline and then you read
Right.
the comments and people are already saying what the story is without actually having to read the story.
Mm-hmm.
We do that with
That's
ourselves.
true. Oh, definitely yes.
Yeah. So
And
we
we
have
don't
this.
realize that.
Yeah, we don't realize it. It's the way that we show up and communicate. It's the way we introduce ourselves. And so
Hmm.
H is that headline. It's what is the headline? You just have to ask yourself that. And when I left TV news, I didn't realize my whole identity was being a TV news reporter and anchor. And
Mm,
I didn't actually expect to leave TV. I decided, hey, what's life like outside? But didn't
yeah.
realize I was holding on to that headline of TV news reporter and anchor. And so I had to ask when I changed careers, I had to ask myself that question of like, what is my headline?
Right.
And so it's just as simple as asking yourself that question.
Wow. Any story that you can share which through this headline framework that you have seen somebody transform in how they see themselves?
Yeah. So I was with a group of people doing a workshop, and
Mm,
I had someone telling me, I've done all of this stuff in my career, but I have always led with my resume and my credentials.
right.
I have never led with my reasoning behind doing all of that work.
That's
And
many.
when she realized what her headline was, she was like, I have never once told my passions of why I do this to connect with other people and to get myself in rooms.
Right. What a shift, right? And I want to share a small story. What you just said kind of clicked that in my mind right now in this session. We were talking about, hey, when you go into this professional networking events, how do you present yourself? And we all come with that headline into what you're saying is like, oh, I'm an IT person and working in this X, Y, and Z company. This is what I do. That's not me.
Yeah.
That's not what my headline really is. My headline should be I have a passion to do X, Y, and Z. For which reason I want to connect and do things what I'm doing. I never knew that. That's a
Yeah.
shift right there. That's a
Yes,
shift right
that's
there.
exactly what it is. And you jumped ahead to the assignment part.
Oh,
Um,
okay, sorry.
but the evidence is E. And it's what I did every day as a journalist. I was pulling stories out of people. People would just spew off a ton of different things as I'm interviewing them. And I also interviewed people in my government and my nonprofit job. So I was doing interviews all the time. And
Right.
people just tell you everything. They tell you
Mm,
all these titles, these facts, these information. And so my job was to pull out that story. And so that's where evidence comes in is you turn it internally and you go, where did that headline come from? Was it just a job
mm,
title that somebody
mm.
else gave to me? And if it's pulled away, then who am I? And I think people forget about that part because they're tied so much to their job title and their what they do for somebody else versus
Right.
why do I do this? And
Yeah.
so it's really delving into where did this come from? Is it
Hmm.
true to who I am? And if it were
Right.
taken away tomorrow, do I still have it? And so
Wow.
it's really delving in and taking an inner look because a lot of times people think I have a communications problem, but I think you have a story problem. You haven't taken that step back to find your story to then communicate it.
Wow. How do we find that story?
Yeah. So once you've kind of asked yourself those questions, you start to think, okay, so I have to figure this out. And it's not going to happen necessarily like that. It's going to
Yeah.
take a little of like, okay, so why did I want think of a job? So when I think about my
Right.
TV news job, why did I want to become a TV news reporter and anchor? Well,
Mm-hmm.
at one point I didn't have a story myself and I wanted to give people a voice and share their stories because
Yeah.
they normally wouldn't be able to. And so it took me going, well, why do I do this?
Yeah.
I don't just do this to be a TV news reporter and that's it. I do this to help other people. I do this
Right.
because something happened in my life that now I want to help other people and give them a voice. Because at one time I didn't have a story and I didn't have a voice myself.
Profound.
And so
And
it's really delving a little bit deeper. And it's not like, you know, going deep in therapy. It's just finding that reasoning why you do it because it's all a communication and it's all storytelling. But it's, a lot of times we're taught to share stories. But
yeah.
if we don't know what story we're telling, then we can't
Yeah.
share it. And so that once you kind of really delve deep into that evidence piece, that's the assignment piece is I'm a person who,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of times when we work for a corporation or we work for somebody else, we start going, oh, we do this instead of I am a person who does this because I want to help XYZ. So
Yeah.
we don't tie ourselves into, and it's especially important. I hear this all the time from people who are in like communications and sales. It's the we, but nobody connects to a we. People connect
Yeah,
to you.
right. And do you think it's important to say I?
I do. I do
Okay.
because if you're trying to introduce yourself to someone and you want to be remembered and be in that room, they're never going
Mm-hmm.
to tie you to we, to a
Yeah,
company. They're going to tie your personal story and your personal reasoning that they connected with
right.
to you. So
So much sense.
that is the most important thing. And I did a lot, especially in my TV days, but going into other industries I had never been in, something that I
Yeah.
did in every interview is I tied a story of myself to my job. So then they didn't
Wow.
remember like just my resume. They remembered me as a person and my story. And so
Right.
I could step more confidently into that room because maybe I didn't have all of those credentials or whatever it may be, but I
Yeah.
had a reason that I was there.
Oh my goodness. Powerful. How about the draft?
So
Let's
draft,
try one draft.
yeah. So draft is where you start to rewrite it. And
Mhm.
drafts are not perfect. And this is why I call it a draft because you have to start to practice it and you have to start to do it. And you're going to say it the first time and it might be a little weird and feel awkward because you were so used to saying it the other way. And then you might be like, actually, I don't even know that that's it. So
Yeah.
you start to really draft this new headline and delve deeper into, okay, let me go a step back, maybe, or two steps back. Did I miss something? But you just have to keep rewriting that draft until
Yeah.
you feel like it's right for you in that moment. And
Yeah.
so that's D because I don't call it, a finished product because it's also going to evolve and change throughout your life. You're going to have more
Absolutely.
stories. You're going to have more things that are true to you as you grow and evolve as a person that are going to connect. And it's only going to help you show up stronger as a leader and in
Yes.
rooms that matter.
Oh, that makes sense. My really good friend, she said, the very first note that you write about anything, it's going to be a shitty first draft. And that's okay. That's how it should be. So I really agree. And then the draft will become a little bit more clearer and become who you are. And then, to your point,
Yeah.
it'll evolve throughout the life. That's awesome. If you, this is something that I would say a very important value that one can take away from. And no one, at least not me, until I sat down and looked up about you and started looking at, like, okay, let me know a little bit more who Christina is and what she stands for. Headline. The minute you see headline, I would never have thought like there's a framework out there. And
Yeah.
girl, you got the framework out there. I'm
Yeah.
so proud of you.
Yeah, and it all delved from, my journalism days.
Yeah.
Literally, I wrote headlines all the time, and the headline becomes the full story if you let it. And
Right.
a lot of people are not even looking at the story when you read off a
Right.
headline. So you have to make sure that the headline is true.
Exactly. I love it. I love it. So, what transformation have you witnessed in professionals or even the organizations after they rewrite their story?
Yeah. So I've seen this in two different ways. I'll start with individuals. Is people I've met with a couple of entrepreneurs as well, and they really start to actually get clarity on their business and how they're communicating it.
Mm,
Sometimes we think in uh, as an entrepreneur that you have to just talk about your business. But
right.
there's a full story behind your business. And if you don't know your story, you're not going to show up confidently in rooms. You're just going to spew off your business and the facts and the resume
Yeah.
of it, and you're not
Uh,
going to connect with that story. And so
mm,
I've seen transformation happen where people start to actually lead with their story. I'm a person who, and I was chatting with someone who was like, I have not been showing up powerfully in the rooms that matter because I have not been leading with my story. Instead, I'm trying to convince people of what I can do versus telling them
Yeah.
my story of why I do what I do that will connect with them more.
Yeah. Oh, can I do a little, real um life change in the
Yeah.
rewrite? And I'm
Yeah.
not trying to do this for free, but like I do want people to understand how what the difference would be.
Yeah.
So let's say me coming in, I have an healthcare IT industry experience, which I'm still working in a corporate world. I have kickstarted this passion that I have with Key to You podcast. And I have a leadership coaching program and I do have my book in place.
Yeah.
Well, I come in and I go in and I'm meeting you, Christina, for the very first time. And I say, hey, I'm Shruthi. I have like IT healthcare and I have my own podcast, Key to You. Will you even connect with me? Will you even know what the heck I'm talking?
No, because
How does that story need to change?
yeah. So first, you just named the headline and you've realized, ooh, that's a lot. It's a mouthful, one. Two,
Exactly.
there's why are you doing what you're doing?
Mm,
Is the first question I would ask is why?
right,
Why are
right.
you doing what you're doing? Where did it
Okay.
come from?
Okay.
And why do you continue to do it? What impact have you made? And what has changed in your life
Okay.
to do all of that?
So let's say if I come back and say, hey, for a very long time, I knew what it means to not, I mean, let's say I have a passion sitting with me and I want to get kickstart that passion. I want to go do something about that and also give back to the community. And I didn't know how, but I finally found this hey, key to you. And the meaning of the key to you really is unlocking one's potential. There's a key for
Yeah.
locking one's potential. And how did I get that connection? Is like every single human being in this universe has something to give back, have some great potential in them. It's only time for them to realize what that is. And once they realize, kickstart immediately. That's my message through
Yeah.
this fight.
Okay. So then I would ask, did this happen to you? Did someone give back to you in a way?
Yes. And I would say for 7 years it was dormant in me. And I knew I wanted to do this. And I all these thoughts of like, oh, I'm not good in camera, my voice is not that great. Who the heck is gonna listen to my story? Who's gonna even come on my podcast? Who am I gonna ask? Hey, are you here? I'm gonna look stupid. So I had all of these clouded thoughts, and then finally, my really good mentor and my really good friend Deepa Joshi, she has this storytelling platform in Michigan, and I connected with that, and then she said, "Girl, just start." And she was my
Yeah.
first guest on my podcast, and she
Oh,
kickstarted me a year ago. and
yes.
and I didn't even know I had this potential to, you know, evolve since then, right?
Yeah.
And bringing such good people as my guest on my podcast. I never knew, Christina, this was possible. But now I know this was meant for me. It
Yeah.
was my calling all along,
Yeah.
right?
So what you pulled out, and this takes a little bit more work, but just
Yeah,
surface levels, you pulled out a story about
right,
what happened to you
right.
in order to do why you do what you do.
Mm. So, why are you doing what you're doing?
Yeah.
And make it concise and present that story as who you are rather than your credentials.
Yep.
Got it. I'll stop at that because I don't
Yeah.
want to go too
Yeah.
deep.
So, yeah. And what I'm really passionate about doing is pulling out that story. So, whether it's for a team where I've been a part of organizations where everyone's telling a different story about the organization. And you
Right.
can not get anybody on the same page. And
Hmm.
so the work I love to do through the headline method is working through the story of the organization and having your people tie their story to it so then it can become more clear and people are concise and they're on the same level, and they're telling the same
But
story but from their own experience. And so
right. Yeah.
it works in two different ways. It can work individually like you and I just did, or it can work for teams and organizations of really delving deep into what is the story that everyone is
Yeah.
telling, and is that the actual story. I mean, sometimes organizations they've been around for so long and they've been telling the same story, but then they realize like, whoa, nobody stopped to reevaluate this story, and is this the one we want to be sharing? So
Right. That's beautiful. So your signature keynote is called Stop Shrinking. What does shrinking looks like? And what does the opposite look like too, if you want to share
yeah.
that?
So shrinking looks like someone who's not speaking up in meetings, or
Mm,
someone who is too afraid to go for the promotion because they've been maybe told something by a boss, or they didn't think they had enough credentials yet. And
yeah.
so they're not living from their story. There's a reason why they want to speak up in the meeting, but they don't feel they're living under this headline that somebody else gave them. And so it's really looking at like, why aren't you speaking up, or why aren't you doing the thing? And so it's
Mhm.
taking a look at that for a bunch of people and helping you to stop shrink by using your story and finding that story that is true to you.
Oh, that's beautiful. And it's not easy, right? Somebody
No.
who's or somebody else's story is not easy. So for someone listening, right? I mean, right now, I want them to understand rewriting their whole own headline changed how they will show up. I mean, I want a real story if you can share where they changed and they came and said, Christina, this is it. And thank you for doing this for us. Or thank you for doing this for me. Because is that it's not a one day work, if I'm
No.
not wrong, right? And your coaching and your message to them will be something that they have to repeatedly do. If you can share something that somebody listening to us hear to this and say, oh my god, I got to go back and listen to Christina again.
Yeah. So a great example of this is I was doing a workshop and I had someone on there who afterwards was chatting with, and they were like, I have been telling my story all wrong. And I never realized that I actually can be in that room
Right.
because of my story, not because of my credentials. And I have the power to speak up
Yeah.
and to show up and feel that my I belong in that room. My story and my voice belong in that room. And um, that person felt really powerful after that. They felt more confident to walk in their room. They felt more confident in who they were just by taking a step back to find their story to communicate it better. And
Right.
so it's just as simple as that. And the shift, I mean, can happen pretty fast, but getting it to where you want it to be might take some time. It might be just,
Mm,
practicing speaking up in the next meeting and sharing a little bit of that. Because when you know why you're in your role or why you're given that space and your story behind that, it really helps you show up better.
wow. You know, I'll tell you something. It is so hard to find that. I mean, let's say you're in a meeting or when you're in an organization, you switch from one leader to another leader and you experience different
Yeah.
flavors of styles and flavors of people. And some are good and some are, that you have to,
Yes.
deal with. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I
But
think we've all dealt with that.
so when you deal with someone who's constantly telling you you don't deserve to be at the table or you're a lot to work on and create that scene in front of you that you never thought that I was that bad, what would you say to them? And like how would you pull them out of that, that shadow and say, look at yourself this way?
Yeah. It's really that E part. It's
Mm,
looking into that evidence of, is what this person is saying true? I will tell
yeah.
you, in my TV news days, I had a lot of people say a lot of things to me.
Wow.
And I always had to take a step back and being like, that person does not know me. They
Exactly.
are making an assumption based
Right.
on what they see on their TV. And so it's really delving deep into that evidence part of like, is this true?
Mm,
And this isn't my story. So how can I communicate my story better?
yeah.
And it's really just being true to you. And that is easier said than done. But if you really think about every time something is said to you, is that
Mm,
true? Just
yeah.
asking that question can
Right.
literally help you take that next step to know what your true story is, or stay true to your story if you have already, if your headline is already there and somebody else tries to tell you something else. So,
I know. So I'll say this: the headline when you're a kid was written by your parents. The headline when you grow up was written by somebody else, and
yeah.
and we're always living in somebody else's story. Really speaking, and it's time for us to change that. So I'm very curious to know when you shift away from your TV, being a journalist, and into the keynote. Was the journey easy for you? Easy shift?
No. I was a TV news anchor reporter, then I was in government communications and then nonprofit communications.
Mm,
And I kind of just fell into this. I had always emceed events, I had always done speaking for every organization I was a part of. And I had this, I guess, pull to
yeah,
really start to share what I have learned and
that's
what
awesome.
I've learned about storytelling communication. But there was so much out there about how to tell a better story. But
Right,
what I realized is that I had learned how to first tell yourself what story you're sharing
right,
so
right.
then you can better relate. So it was really just a journey, and it's still continuing to be a journey
Mm-hmm.
of discovering what is next and rewriting my story currently. So it's just a fun adventure right now,
That's awesome.
especially, yeah, being across so many different service organizations, from journalism to government to nonprofit, just really
Right.
wanting to serve people, to help people, find that story so they can communicate and lead better.
That is so beautiful. And I really want to say that you come across so authentic.
Oh,
And
thank
I do want to see if you have written a book, The Head Framework, yet.
Not yet. That is on the docket.
Okay.
It is going to be in the works. I think in the next couple of years. I've been thinking a lot about that, and so I'm
You
starting to
should.
build out that framework. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's funny. Every time I meet someone, they're like, "Are you an author?" And I'm like, "Not yet." Trust me, it is on the list. Um, so that is definitely on the list. So
Yeah.
stay tuned, and I will definitely keep you updated.
I look forward for that.
Mm.
So, lastly, right, let's anybody listening to our conversation, what are the three things that you want them to take away from this conversation that we are having to help them rewrite their story?
Yeah. So I think the first is really look at what headline are you saying right now.
Mm-hmm.
Second is to really look at where it came from. And the third is to know that you can rewrite it, because you may not have written that first headline, but you can write what comes next.
I just the tagline that I talked about just before the podcast began, that's yours,
Yeah.
and it's so powerful. To me, I think like it makes so much sense. The key takeaway for me is stop shrinking from this conversation, right? Stop shrinking. Figure out if you're shrinking, recognize that, and see what story you're writing or
Yeah.
what you're telling. And if you're telling a story that's truly not yours, figure out how to rewrite it. Shitty
Yeah.
first try. I'm going to say that. But make sure that you can, you will know that you can rewrite. That's Christina, my, you know, to everybody. How do you connect with her? Because I think this is not it. What we talked is just a simple and highly powerful, value packed message, but she has a framework more deepened, and then you can learn from
Yeah.
her. And how do you connect with Christina? ChristinaHepner.com. And we're gonna put that over there when we do post this recording. And she can be found in LinkedIn and Instagram at the Christina Hepner,
Yeah.
right? And I say that if you whenever you have any workshops out there in Michigan, I'm there. I'm going to be
Thank
attending
you.
that. And I do want to listen to you live when you are sharing Stop Shrinking, because that was me for a way too long,
Yeah.
before I could realize that no, shrinking is not me. I got to be out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So that to me is so personal, and I will make sure that I'm want to
Well,
listen what
thank
the
you.
message that you have to say.
Yeah.
And don't forget to subscribe and follow Key to You podcast. And with that, my dear, thank you so much, Christina, for being on Key to
Thank
You.
you. Thank you so much.